Better to be early than on time. A lesson I learned a very long time ago. A lot to talk about tonight. It's all going down next on Raider Nation News Today.
The United States are strongly encouraged to shelter in place to avoid being attacked or taken hostage. To shelter in place, take the following precautions. Close all windows and doors, and all lights.
Welcome to the house that Hammer built by the nation for the nation. Welcome to Raider Nation News Today. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday wherever you guys are at. Before we go any further, y'all know the routine, and if you don't, I'm going to learn you. Break them thumbs, hit them subs, smash the bell to stay up to date for all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, and reactions. We do know that Josh McDaniels is in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine, which starts this week. He is out there by himself. He did a presser earlier today. We're going to play the presser. And then we have some audio clips from NFL draft analyst Mel Kiper. He was on the Rothenberg and Rick DiPietro show on ESPN Radio New York early this morning. And he had a lot of things to say about this draft that, look, when you guys hear it, I'm telling you now, you need to be prepared. Let me fix the audio real quickly so we can get this show on the road for you guys. And let me not be an asshole. Let me see who's in here. Salute to Bourbon, Uncharted Raider, Ruben Rust, Big Mike. Salute, 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 salute. Let's get into it with Josh McDaniels first and hear what he had to say about the draft and about our quarterback search. Here we go.
Josh, for you, how much you know what these guys can do on tape? You already watched them all play football, a lot of the prospects. How much are the interviews the most important part of the combine?
I think that's really an important part of the impression that we get to make on each other here to begin. You know, most of these players, this is the first opportunity for them to meet us, and we started that process last night with the interviews, and we'll continue that the next few days here. It's certainly not long enough to make any decisions or anything like that on somebody, but you certainly get to know their personality. You get to know a little bit about their background, what they love about football. And, that's the beginning of the process for us. So it's the part that I enjoy the most about the Combine is really just, I now have an idea of what somebody is like. And then we just got to dig deeper here the next few months.
With limited visits where you're allowed to bring them into Vegas,
Yep.
Can this determine a lot of who gets an invite, or maybe guys you think you're going to invite say, nah, never mind?
I think it kind of helps us make that decision process a little easier. I don't know that in an individual interview that it would nail it down one way or the other, but certainly if it went really well and it kind of eliminated some of the questions you might have had about a player, you may not need to use one on them, and certainly if you left the meeting feeling like there was still some meat on the bone and you really needed to know some things, then I think you can use the 30 visit, or you potentially have to go, see them, or Zoom them. And there's a lot of avenues now for us to gather more time with the players, and we'll use all those avenues. Draft. I mean, I think there's always urgency at that position. Look, the goal for us eventually is to have somebody that's going to be here for a long time. I think that, you see the teams that are having success right now in our league, I would say in our conference, and specifically in our division.
Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. The verdict is still out there for Russell Wilson.
They're young players that were drafted by their clubs, and they're being developed there under the same continuity. And so I think that eventually, yes. Do I think you have to do that if you're not sure or not sold on the player, and now you're making a mistake just to try to say that you're solving a problem? I don't think that's really a smart decision. So we're going to do everything we can do to evaluate every player at that position, both in the draft and free agency, and try to do what we can do to improve the room. I mean, there's certainly going to be a number of players added at that position. Right now, only Chase Garbers is under contract. So we'll look at everything we can look at. But the goal eventually is to try to have a young player here that's going to be a Raider for a long time.
All right, you heard what he said, and clearly it seems that we are eyeing a quarterback. He also said maybe even free agency. He did not say trade. So again, the Aaron Rodgers thing is out the window. Let's not even revisit that anytime soon. Realistically, right now, you heard me talk yesterday about Jarrett Stidham. 5.5 maybe max with some incentives. Jimmy Garoppolo, which I've told you guys, look, he started 10 games. He has a passer rating in those 10 games of 103, but injury prone. Jacoby Brissett, hard pass. A lot of people over the last 24 to 48 hours, for some strange reason, have brought up Carson Wentz. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. But again, it's either the draft or free agency. Nothing has been said about trades. We shall see.
I know we're just getting into that process with you guys. Is there an expectation that quarterback could be here in Indianapolis?
He certainly could be. And again, I think it's a very young in the process, if you will. Especially for me, after coming off the season, there's other people in our organization, Dave Champ, his group, Brandon Urigan, that have scouted these guys extensively. They know more about them at this point in time, but that circle will get closed here shortly. I'm really excited for this process because I'm going to get an opportunity to sit face to face with most of the quarterbacks that are here, or at least a good chunk of them. And then we're going to kind of recalibrate, and then Dave and I will figure out exactly what direction we need to go with the rest of the spring.
What are some of the traits you have in the quarterback? There's many different ones here.
Yeah. I think you start with leadership, and you just saw our championship game, played a couple weeks ago, and, two incredible leaders of their football teams. And I think that's very consistent among the best players at that position. You got to have a great leader. It's got to be able to have mental and physical toughness. No question about it. There's going to be a ton of adversity in the National Football League season, and whether it's physical things you're going to have to battle through, or the mental toughness to endure a couple losses and keep going, and those kind of things are always going to be prerequisites for us. And he's got to be able to move the ball, score points, and take care of it, And so when you talk about quarterback play, they need to get us in the end zone. We need to protect the ball from the other team, and ultimately we got to win. So there's a lot of things that go into playing this position really well. There's a lot of different people that can fit those traits and qualities. And I think we've seen in our league the last so many years, the requirements have changed, height, size. There's certain people that can do things with their legs that other guys can't. Big arms, less than that, something less than that. So it's not one size fits all, but I think there's a lot of things you're looking for if you're going to commit to them.
Sorry about that, guys. All right, so you see he's really right now stressing out. Not like, you guys know what I mean. But he's really putting an emphasis on a young quarterback. He's talked about guys in our division, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. He talked about the quarterbacks that were in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Two young quarterbacks, two quarterbacks with great leadership skills, carried their teams to the promised land. I get the route that they're trying to go. I think we all can agree. We see what they're trying to go with this. But here's some of the measurables and things they're talking about. Size, pause, arm strength, being able to extend plays, that type of stuff, right? Okay, so earlier this morning, I stated earlier for those that are coming on in, and guys, welcome to Raider Nation News today for those that are just coming on in. Of course, Chris, of course. Mel Kiper, NFL analyst for ESPN, the draft analyst to be specific, was on with Dave Rothenberg and Rick DiPietro on their morning show on ESPN Radio in New York early this morning. And like I said, guys, prepare yourselves. I wanted to play a little bit of Josh McDaniels first. I'm not going to play this whole thing because I think we pretty much have an idea of the route that this team is trying to go come April 27th. So this is Mel Kiper on ESPN Radio New York this morning asking how the quarterbacks of this class rank. Take a listen, guys.
No, it's not a group that's going to have the highest grades in the last 45 years I've been doing this. That none of those quarterbacks are going to be in that league. Will Levis could have been had he had the year he had in 2021, but he was banged up all year, didn't get any help from his supporting cast. Bryce Young, if he were bigger, would be. C.J. Stroud, if he would have had more games like the Georgia one, would be. If Anthony Richardson would have played another year at Florida, he may have been talking about him elite, but he didn't. He only has 13 career starts. So there's issues with all these guys that are the reason why they're not generational, but it's a good group. It's an interesting group. Opinions of these four are all over the place, and it's going to be really intriguing to see what happens at the top of the draft. Who trades up? Are there deals possible for Chicago like I'm projecting? What happens after the pro days? They're coming up soon. All those guys are going to have pro days, boom, 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 and then the following week it'll be Richardson. All that'll be important for these guys to see who solidifies that QB1 spot.
Mel, how much real...
I keep muting myself because I want you guys to hear. I don't want to be talking over it. I don't want any weird audio issues. But did you guys just hear what he said about these top quarterbacks that are coming out of this draft? Anybody that's in this chat right now, are you guys nervous? If you are, give me a thumbs up. If you're not really overly concerned right now about the situation, thumbs down. But listening to this morning, and we're nowhere near done with the other things he had to say. I want you guys to keep listening because this right now is an eye-opener with what we just heard Josh McDaniel say and the things that he's looking for out of our next potential future franchise quarterback and what Mel Kiper is saying about the quarterbacks in this draft class right now. Take a listen. This is his concerns about Bryce Young's size. Pause if necessary.
His weight. That's a small quarterback.
Yeah, it's never happened before. History of the draft, you have never had a quarterback in the first round at 5'10 and a half, say 190, 195, 200. Now, they say he'll be 205. We'll see. Working with a nutritionist, getting that weight up. I put the bar at 195. If he's 195 or higher, he will be my QB1. Slightly over Will Levis. If he's 194 or less, he's going to be QB2. So, yes, the size is a big concern of Bryce Young since he's an outlier. We've never had that before. Why is he the outlier? Because he's a great processor. He's a winner. He's a great kid. He's got everything you want. If he were bigger, it would be guaranteed. Yeah, we'd be giving a generational grade to him like we did with Trevor Lawrence, but that's not the case, and that size is a factor that would lead you to be concerned about can he hold up against those big NFL front seven guys getting after him. We see bigger quarterbacks getting hurt. Bryce Young is tiny when you look at the quarterbacks who have gone in the first round over the last 45 years.
So,
long story short, Bryce Young, get your weight up. That's more or less what Mel Kiper's saying right now. And before I go further into this interview from this morning, shout out to my little cousin. And I want to send a huge shout out to my other little cousin who just committed last week to Penn State to play women's basketball. I'm so proud of you. I'm so ecstatic and so happy for you and the entire family. I love you guys. I definitely will be pulling up to a couple of games in the near future. Wishing you continued success and all the best. Love you, love you, love you. All right, moving on. The best position in the 2023 NFL Draft. And again, this is per Mel Kiper from earlier this morning on ESPN Radio New York. Here's what he had to say.
Back is very deep. Tight end, I think, is one of the best positions. There's a lot of corners. Got 5 in the first round. I think when you look overall at this draft, it's a bad draft. It's not a good draft. I struggle to get the 85 players that I really like.
Before we go any further, did you hear what he just said? This is a bad draft. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I'm going to let you guys continue to hear what he said, but I'll say his quote right now. He's never said this. In the 45 years he's been covering and doing NFL draft coverage and analysis, he's never said this before. Keep listening, guys.
So you got to really, and some of those 85 may still be on a board in the 7th round, okay? Everybody's board may only need 85. Sometimes you only need 110, 120. So we can say it's a bad draft, but if you pick the right players, you'll be fine. I said about 3-4 weeks ago, if you end up 3 years from now with an A or a B draft, all your scouts should get a nice significant raise, because this is a tough draft to really isolate and figure out who the best players are. There's a lot of guys that you're going to roll the dice on. Some you'll hit on, some you'll fail on, and won't develop. So this is a tricky draft. It's not a good draft. In fact, it's one of the worst drafts in recent memory. But for me, I'd never say it's a bad draft. That's the first time in my history, guys, I've ever said it's a bad draft.
I'm just really trying to process this. And again, I listened to this on the car ride in this morning, and I'm still listening to it again. I'm just blown away to even hear him say something like that. Chris, yes, Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are both under 6 feet. Kyler Murray also already has an injury history. So this is just very, very telling to hear something like this from Mel Kiper right now. And Bourbon, you and I had this conversation earlier today. Yes, most of the time you take his word with a grain of salt. Mayock's been better than him, and look at how that turned out. Yeah, but Mayock was also a terrible GM. Granted, he did get some nice pieces here, but full draft, no, not so much. Damon Arnett. Let me just remind you of that one, Damon Arnett. All right. Now he goes into his best player on the board. Pretty much who's probably going to be, at this point, probably not the number 1 overall pick, because there's reports out there now that the Bears are looking to trade up. They are going to keep Justin Fields, so they may trade back in this upcoming draft. But this is what he had to say about the best player, the best prospect in this upcoming draft.
Well, I'll go to number 1 guy on my board. That's Jalen Carter from Georgia, the defensive tackle. He's special, and he was banged up early this year. When he got healthy, he was wreaking havoc. He was arguably their best defensive player on that talent-laden defense in 2021. Will Anderson, why not Will Anderson? Will Anderson, to me, is not Myles Garrett or Von Miller. He doesn't have the explosiveness out of the blocks. He doesn't have the bend, but he's a heck of a player. Now, will he be an 8 to 10 sack guy or a 15 to 20 sack guy? I'm betting more 8 to 10. That's why he's in there. Is not a elite, super elite, top pick because of that reason. For that reason, but in terms of running backs, people say, why do you have Bijan Robinson in the first round? You hate running backs. Well, he's the 6th highest rated player on the board, and I have him going to Buffalo near the end of the first round. He could go to Dallas right before them, pick 1 pick ahead of the Bills. So Bijan, because of the talent, I think still gets into the late first round.
All right, so you heard what he just said on Will Anderson. A lot of people have been in here high on Will Anderson. At this point in time, Will Anderson was not a guy that is my pick. If I had it my way, you guys know the one defensive lineman that I would love to have here, and that's Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Just like I said, the things that he had to say about this draft is just blowing my mind right now. And I know for some people it's like, holy shit, did he really just say this stuff? Russell won a Super Bowl, but he did have the Legion of Boom, so that's what we need. Chris, we do need a solid secondary. I talked about it yesterday in the quick hit about potentially trading for Jalen Ramsey. At the same time, Jalen Ramsey is in the 3rd year of a 5-year, $100 million contract. He's owed $17 million this coming season. The Rams, who went 5-12 last year, Super Bowl hangover more or less, are looking to clear cap space. The two teams that make the most sense right now as a trade scenario for Jalen Ramsey's services would either be the Detroit Lions, who are just shy of making the playoffs, or the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders gave up a 98.6 passer rating to quarterbacks last year, the worst in the league. The secondary definitely needs a huge bolster, and a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who has been selected, to 6 straight Pro Bowl appearances, 3-time All-Pro. Sign me up, but at the same time, buyer beware, because again, this guy is already in the middle of a 5-year contract, and he's looking to get more money. Realistically, again, he's owed $17 million this coming season. I honestly feel he is probably looking to have an average annual roughly around a ballpark of $22 to $25 million. We have $48.6 million in cap space. We still have a lot of holes to fill. We have our defensive line that is pretty much going to be depleted. 4 guys that are going to be on the free agency market. We also have 6 offensive linemen that are going to be on the free agency market unless re-signed. I'm going to talk about this right now. Since we're mentioning defensive linemen, Deron Payne was franchise tagged earlier today by the Washington Commanders. A guy that a lot of you guys had on your wish list for free agency is officially off the board. We do have another 5. Shout out to Sean Johnson with this awesome information. Top 5 free agent defensive linemen and their market values as well. So let's take a look at that real quickly. Let me pull this up. Here we go. All right. So you have Javon Hargrave, a guy that I mentioned the other day. I would absolutely love to have here, a fucking amazing force on the interior D line. Market value $20.1 million. Gotta wait. We gotta see. Leonard Williams, the former New York Jet and former New York Football Giant. Dude has been a beast since he came into the league at a USC. Another guy, a value of $18 million. Another guy that might be looking for more. But from what I've heard and reports out on the East Coast, whoa, I don't know where that came from. Leonard Williams said that he would be willing to restructure his contract to stay with the Giants. So that one is a up in the air type of situation. Fletcher Cox from the Philadelphia Eagles as well, 32 years old. His market value is $14 million. We saw this movie during the offseason with Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh eventually, late in the season, I believe it was week 9, week 10 of the regular season, signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Fletcher Cox, he's been a guy that we've talked about for nearly 2 years now, potentially finding a way to add him here. He's another guy I would not mind having here, but the money would have to make sense. Dalvin Tomlinson, I spoke about him last week in a quick hit. Young guy, 28 years old. He also played for the New York Giants and recently just played 2 years with the Minnesota Vikings. Amazing run stopper. At that age and the market value, I don't see why we don't take a flyer on a guy like him. Like I said, a lot of holes. Secondary, linebackers. You heard me talk about David Long potentially being a free agent linebacker that comes here, the linebacker out of Tennessee. I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Dalvin Tomlinson for that money. Jerry Tillery, we saw a little bit of glimpses and glimmers out of him last year. He was claimed off of waivers by us. He was with the Chargers for pretty much the start of his career. Came out of Notre Dame, another solid guy. The one little mishap, I would say take a flyer on him. Honestly, if I had it my way right now and if I was able to take these two guys, it would absolutely be Dalvin Tomlinson and Jerry Tillery moving forward. But we will have to wait and see what happens. We are less than a month away. We're actually about 2 weeks away from the start of the new league year. The legal tampering period starts on March 13th. There was another report out there a couple of hours ago that the New York Giants are going to release wide receiver Kenny Golladay as of March 15th. That is not a guy that I'm saying let's get him, because he just seems like a guy that does not want to play football. So yeah, that's a hard pass on that one. I'm good. Let me see if I'm missing anything in the chat right now. I appreciate everybody that's in here. We have 40 in here right now. I know Wasted is live, so it is what it is. Kick Butowski, rather invest in Jesse Bates. again, as long as the deal makes sense, I'm for it. I want to have at least one solid number one corner for this defense, but we also have to worry about our interior and our linebackers because it starts with the front seven. When it comes to our offensive line, I say we do re-sign Jermaine Illuminor. Granted, 13 penalties last year. He was a guy last year that I was really high on, and yeah, I guess I was wrong with his play. We've talked about there Mumford, who just finished his rookie season, the 7th round draft pick. He potentially could be our starting right tackle moving forward if he does his job throughout the offseason and just does what's expected of him throughout the preseason. He was on the heels of Jermaine Illuminor at the start of the season. 300 and I believe 95 snaps. He only gave up 1 sack at the right tackle position. I don't see why we don't take the chance and have him start. But we also have to think about our quarterback. Who is our quarterback going to be? You heard Josh McDaniels talk about this draft class. You heard what Mel Kiper said about this draft class and the quarterback specifically. It could be a free agent quarterback. It could be a quarterback that we draft in this coming draft. Time will tell, guys. Time will tell. But we don't need anybody jumping off the cliff right now. We don't need anybody going crazy over our Raiders. We're in the offseason. This is the time for us to relax. We watch and see what these guys do when Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, and the rest of that front office. And hopefully everything makes sense this season. Look, we traded our first and second round picks last year. We got Tay. Tay, I've said this before, I do believe that Tay is going to have some input in regards to who the next starting quarterback for this organization is going to be. You heard me talk about Jarrett Stidham yesterday. Jarrett Stidham is a guy that could be that stopgap. Jarrett Stidham impressed the fans, whether you guys want to admit it or not. He impressed his teammates with the 2 games that he started. Granted, 0-2. Passed for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 2 of them were not his fault. Look back at the tape, and you know I'm right. Stidham could be that guy, especially if they do go the route of drafting what potentially could be our future franchise quarterback. Let him learn behind Stidham. Let Stidham assist in developing him, letting this quarterback, whoever it is, learn the system. And in due time, because we've seen this is the ongoing trend and has been a trend for many, many years. You draft a rookie quarterback, for the most part. We've seen teams that throw these quarterbacks to the wolves right away. But the right way of doing it, especially coming into the league, learning the pro-style system, learning behind a veteran quarterback, get your time to develop, and eventually you'll be a starter. We see the young quarterbacks in the league. We see how things have worked out for them. Justin Herbert, realistically, and I am a Ducks fan. I did enjoy watching him at Oregon. And not to sound like an ass, but things kind of happened in a weird way for Justin Herbert to eventually become the starter. For those that don't know, Tyrod Taylor was a starting quarterback until the Chargers medical staff messed up and punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung. And as a result, here comes Justin Herbert, and never saw the bench after that. So with Mahomes, we know who he learned behind, and he had his time on the bench and multiple Super Bowl appearances and MVP. So, yeah. Raider Nomad, I couldn't have said it better myself. RELAX. Relax. Chris, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Vikings said they want Tomlinson back. Yeah, but they're also on the front of the struggle bus when it comes to their salary cap, and that's why Dalvin Tomlinson is a topic of discussion when it comes to free agency and top defensive tackles that are going to be free agents. They'll have to try to do something, but look, if we happen to offer more, who's to say he won't take it? Remember, no state tax in Vegas, man. I'm here for it. Bourbon, everyone talk about Young, but I think Stroud or Levis. Yeah, it's actually Levis. I didn't realize, so me saying Levis for as long as I did, and normally I'm a very articulate person. I apologize, and Will Levis, apologize to you as well. The way, like, from the conversation that Mel Kiper had in that interview, it's looking more and more like Levis could potentially be there. We could potentially end up with Stroud falling down to us. But they're also talking about some of these teams after us that could be looking to get quarterbacks. They're talking about the Carolina Panthers potentially going, if he's on the board, and this goes for the New York Jets as well, apparently, even though there are still talks out here about Derek Carr eventually coming to the New York Jets. Anthony Richardson is a guy right now that they're saying that could potentially end up going number 9 to the Carolina Panthers, or he could go to the Jets, or maybe another team that might need a quarterback. They've even talked about potentially him going to Seattle. Look, right now it's extremely tricky. I'm absolutely looking forward to watching the Combine, seeing what some of these guys can do. I'm going to try to make an attempt to potentially watch the some of the pro days as well. You heard Mel Kiper mention Bijan Robinson, who is the 6th best player on the draft board. There are a lot of teams that are in need of a running back. The Bills, the Eagles. There's a team that he didn't mention because he is apparently, there's a report out there, and he said this like on a live show in front of the whole world and Todd McShay, that if the Baltimore Ravens draft running back Bijan Robinson out of Texas, Mel Kiper will no longer be doing draft analysts. I won't hold my breath, but if that happens, I'm telling you now, I'm gonna just lose my shit. But there are a lot of teams right now that, like I said, a couple of those teams that I mentioned, the Bills, the Eagles. I do believe the Ravens are a team that is going to need another running back as well. There's a good chance that Bijan, again, being the 6th best on the board, he's probably going to end up with one of those teams, most definitely. Especially, I think realistically right now, as I sit here thinking about it, a team like the Bills, whose run game, in my opinion, has been non-existent for like the last 2 years. We really see Josh Allen running more than the actual running backs. I think the Bills may end up being that team that takes Bijan Robinson off the board. I just think young size scares off a lot of teams. Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. And you heard what Kiper said, more or less, like this dude needs to be at 205. Even the big quarterbacks get knocked down, but it's very tough to say. AR-15 to Seattle would be smart. Let him sit behind Geno for a year or two. Yeah. Young's height is not an issue. It's his weight that frightens me. And look, they're saying it's a combination of both, but Mel Kiper said it's more the weight thing. He's working with the nutritionist. He's trying to get his weight up. So let's see. When they do everything at the Combine, they do his measurables and everything, we'll see where he's at. Is it going to scare some teams? It might scare some. I don't think it's going to scare all of them, though, especially those that are in desperate need of a quarterback at the front end of the draft. So we shall see. We have been on, really, only a half hour. I could actually take this off the board or off the screen. I don't know why I left it up so long. But there you go, your top defensive tackles, your top free agent defensive tackles as of, or effective officially, March 15th. Like I said, I know everybody is over in that man's, aka Grandpa's lawn. No, I'm joking. But I'm gonna hit this first because he's upon us. Equinox is upon us. If this actually wants to work for me today, which it probably won't. No, it won't. Can't win. Dominique 5, what's good? I'm going to head out. Oh, there it is. Daddy D's. I'm going to head out. Guys, go over. Tell Wasted I sent you and make sure to pay your tab over there. But if you haven't, since you're in here right now, if you haven't done this, do this first. Break them thumbs, hit them subs, smash the bell for all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, and reactions in the house that Hammer built by the nation, for the nation. Raider Nation News today. I really don't want to get off of here. I kind of want to open up the phone lines. What do you guys want me to do? How about that? I am not going to WrestleMania. Guys, let me know. Should we extend this for a little bit? Because, look, we did talk about a lot. I want to hear from you guys, and I was going to do that tonight. Do we open up the phone lines? And the rule is you have a max 2 minutes. We're not going to go over that. Like, it's been difficult for other people to call in, give their thoughts, give their opinions, give their views. So you guys get 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And I think that's doable because even radio stations don't give you that much time. I'm looking at the chat. If you guys want me to open the phone lines, give me a thumbs up. If not, we can end it. There we go. That's fixed. Dead air. I apologize. I'm waiting. If not, we'll do a call-in show at some point this week. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to talk about as we are in the middle of the combine this week. I will have a special guest on at some point this week. Critique, what's good? I will have a very special guest on at some point this week who is at the combine, but they're only going to be at the combine, I believe, for one day. So I will have that special guest on. Get their views, their thoughts, who stood out from what they saw, and we'll definitely take it from there. But yeah, it's about that time. Like I said, guys, go on over, let them know I sent you. Much love to everybody in here. On your way out, break them thumbs, hit them subs, smash the bell for all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, reactions. Continue to stay safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. COVID is still around. Remember to wash your hands and your asses. And as always, win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till I die. Till next time, y'all. Peace, love, and positivity. I'm out.